But now, like, honestly, GPT-5 understands everything in a physics textbook pretty well. We're excited about synthetic data. We're very excited about our users helping us create harder and harder tasks and environments to go off and have the system solve. But I think data will always be important, but we're entering a realm where the models need to learn things that don't exist in any data set yet. They have to go discover new things. So that's like a crazy new
How do
step.
you teach a model to discover new things?
Well, humans can do it. Like we can
Yeah.
go off and come up with hypotheses and test them and get experimental results and update on what we learn. So probably the same kind of way.
And then there's algorithmic design.
Yeah. We've made huge progress on algorithmic design. The thing that OpenAI does best in the world is we have built this culture of repeated and big algorithmic research gains. So we kind of, figured out what became the GPT paradigm. We figured out what became the reasoning paradigm. We're working on some new ones now. But it is very exciting to me to think that there are still many more orders of magnitudes of algorithmic gains ahead of us. We just yesterday released a model called GPT-OSS,
Mhm.
an open source model. It's a model that is as smart as O4 Mini, which is a very smart model that runs locally on a laptop. And this blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like, if you had asked me a few years ago when we would have a model of that intelligence running on a laptop, I would have said many, many years in the future. But then we found some algorithmic gains, particularly around reasoning, but also some other things that let us do a tiny model that can do this amazing thing. And you know, those are the most fun things. That's like kind of the coolest part of the job.
I can see you really enjoying thinking about this. I'm curious for people who don't quite know what you're talking about, who aren't familiar with how an algorithmic design
Yeah.
would lead to a better experience that they actually use. Could you summarize the state of things right now? Like what is it that you're thinking about when you're thinking about how fun this problem is?
Let me start back in history and then I'll get to some things from
Please.
today. So GPT-1 was an idea at the time that was quite mocked by a lot of experts in the field, which was, can we train a model to play a little game, which is show it a bunch of words and have it guess the one that comes next in the sequence. That's called unsupervised learning. You're not really saying like, this is a cat, this is a dog. You're just saying, here's some words, guess the next one. And the fact that that can go learn these very complicated concepts, that can go learn all the stuff about physics and math and programming and keep predicting the word that comes next and next and next and next, seemed ludicrous, magical, unlikely to work. Like, how was that all going to get encoded? And yet humans do it. Babies start hearing language and figure out what it means, kind of largely, or at least to some significant degree, on their own. And so we did it. And then we also realized that if we scaled it up, it got better and better. But we had to scale over many, many orders of magnitude. So it wasn't that good in the GPT-1 day. It wasn't good at all in the GPT-1 days. And a lot of experts in the field said, oh, this is ridiculous. It's never going to work. It's not going to be robust. But we had these things called scaling laws. And we said, okay, so this gets predictably better as we increase compute, memory, data, whatever. And we can decide, we can use those predictions to make decisions about how to scale this up and do it and get great results. And that has worked over, a crazy number of orders of magnitude. And it was so not obvious at the time. Like that was, I think the reason the world was so surprised is that seemed like such an unlikely finding. Another one was that we could use these language models with reinforcement learning, where we're saying, this is good, this is bad, to teach it how to reason.
Mm-hmm.
And this led to the O1 and O3 and now the GPT-5 progress. And that was another thing that felt like, if it works, it's really great, but like, no way this is going to work. It's too simple. And now we're on to new things. We've figured out how to make much better video models. We are discovering new ways to use new kinds of data and environment to kind of scale that up as well. And I think, again, 5-10 years out, that's too hard to say in this field. But the next couple of years, we have very smooth, very strong scaling in front of us.
I think it has become a sort of public narrative that we are on this smooth path from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to more.
Yeah.
But it also is true behind the scenes that it's not linear like that. It's messier. Tell us a little bit about the mess before GPT-5. What were the interesting problems that you needed to solve?
Um, we did a model called Orion that we released as GPT 4.5, and we did too big of a model. It's a very cool model, but it's unwieldy to use. And we realized that for kind of some of the research we need to do on top of a model, we need a different shape. So we followed one scaling law that kept being good without really internalizing it. There was a new, even steeper scaling law that we got better returns for compute on, which was this reasoning thing. So that was like one alley we went down and turned around, but that's fine. That's part of research. We had some problems with the way we think about our data sets, as these models like really have to get this big and learn from this much data. So yeah, I think like in the middle of it, in the day to day, you make a lot of U-turns as you try things, or you have an architecture idea that doesn't work. But the aggregate, the summation of all the squiggles has been remarkably
Hmm.
smooth on the exponential.
One of the things I always find interesting is that by the time I'm sitting here interviewing you about the thing that you just put out, you're thinking about the
Too
next.
forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are the things that you can share that are at least the problems that you're thinking about that I would be interviewing you about in a year if I came back?
I mean, possibly you'll be asking me like, what does it mean that this thing can go discover new science?
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, how is the world supposed to think about GPT-6 discovering new science? Now, maybe not. Like, maybe we don't deliver that, but it feels within grasp.
If you did, what would you say? What would the implications of that kind of achievement be? Imagine you do succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the great parts will be great, the bad parts will be scary, and the bizarre parts will be like bizarre on the first day, and then we'll get used to them really fast. So we'll be like, oh, it's incredible that this is like being used to cure disease. And be like, oh, it's extremely scary that models like this are being used to like create new biosecurity threats. And then we'll also be like, man, it's really weird to like live through watching the world speed up so much.
Hmm.
And, the economy grows so fast, and the like it will feel like vertigo inducing, sort of the rate of change. And then, like happens with everything else, the remarkable ability of people, of humanity, to adapt to kind of like any amount of change.
Hmm.
We'll just be
Yeah.
like, okay, this is it. Um, a kid born today will never be smarter than AI, ever. And a kid born today, by the time that kid like kind of understands the way the world works, will just always be used to an incredibly fast rate of things improving and discovering new science. They will never know any other world. It will seem totally natural. It will seem unthinkable and Stone Age like that we used to use computers or phones or any kind of technology that was not way smarter than we were. We will think like how bad those people of the 2020s had it.
I'm thinking about having kids.
You should. It's the best thing ever.
I know you just had your first kid. How does what you just said affect how I should think about parenting a kid in that world?
I
What
mean,
advice would you give me?
probably nothing different than the way we've been parenting kids for tens of thousands of years. Like, love your kids, show them the world, like support them in whatever they want to do, and teach them like how to be a good person. And that probably is what's going to matter.
It sounds a little bit like some of the, you've said a couple of things like this that, you know, you might not go to college. There are a couple of things that you've said so far that feed into this, I think. And it sounds like what you're saying is there will be more optionality for them in a world that you envision,
Totally.
and therefore they will have more ability to say, I want to build this. Here's the superpowered tool that will help me do that. Or
Yeah, like I want my kid to think I had a terrible, constrained life and that he has this incredible, infinite canvas of stuff to do. That is like the way of the world.